Okay, so in today's video, I'm going to show you how to paint a pink peony in watercolor. I went out in my garden and I decided to cut one just for some inspiration to have it right by me as I'm painting them. And I'm going to show you a couple different views of them. I'm going to show you one where it is kind of going up and you kind of see it sideways but open a little bit. And I'm going to show you another one where it is just full on and you're seeing the whole flower. The inside is going to be right in the middle. And I did a couple little samples for you, and we might even do a little bud as well because the buds are just so cute and round, and I love them. So I'm going to be doing a couple different versions of the peony for you. All right, so let's get started. I've got my watercolor book right here. Let's open it up. I'll put my flower right there. So I've got my watercolor paper. I've got my watercolor brushes. I have a size 12 and a size 4. I'm going to be mostly doing the peony in the size 12, and I'm going to bring in a couple little details with the 4, but that's more towards the end of painting the flower. I have my Winsor Newton watercolors and my glass of water and a paper towel. All right, the color that I'm going to be using today is Permanent Rose, Winsor Newton. And I'm just going to get a little bit on my palette here. And you want a nice wash. And I'm not sure you can see this off palette. Let me see, or off camera. So this is the way my palette looks. And I've got my Permanent Rose here. I'm just going to be dipping it in. And I'm going to be putting a good amount of water on there because I want it to be really, really light. All right. So I'm going to start with the flower that is kind of sideways but looking up. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a nice wash, light wash of your Permanent Rose or whatever color you choose to paint with. And now the peony has got very raggedy little, let me take it out of the water. The peony's got these really raggedy little petals here. So there's like a lot of little bumps and hills and curves. And so the more you have, the better. And it starts out tighter in the middle and then it gets looser, a looser, longer petal as you go outside, just because that's the way the flower is opening. So it's nice and clustered and tight in the middle, and usually like a white or a yellow kind of in the middle, and then a lighter pink or pinkish purple on the outside. All right, I'm going to stick that right back in my water. Okay, so we're going to start with the outside petals first because we want those to be a little bit lighter. And I'm going to come in and I'm just going to do these nice big, almost like hills in the background. And you can have them be a little bit jaggedy like I just showed you, a little bit roughed up. The peony petals are so beautiful. They're not perfect, but to me they're perfect. They're beautiful. It's one of my favorite flowers. And we're going to have the back ones coming up. So it's going to be like the flower is facing this way. So the back ones are going to be going up. And then as you're on the side here, you're going to have them kind of like in a cup. So I'm going to just kind of put a little dot right where the middle of my flower is, just to kind of show you so you're not confused. So everything is going to be going around the center of the flower. So I'm going to do some kind of going sideways, but they're all still going to be going up because that flower is just, the center is just opening and all those petals want to shine and face up. I'm leaving a little bit of white space in here. Okay. And now these down here, I'm going to have some petals kind of coming up, kind of covering the middle because it's like this. It's where my thumbs are. It's the petals that are coming up like this. So you're still having them in the front of the center there. All right, and then I'm gonna put some coming sideways. And now they're gonna start drooping down a little bit because this part of the flower, now they're starting to droop down this way. And I'm doing this really, really light. And you can have them kind of jaggedy coming down this way too. So see how these petals are going up, sideways, and more towards you. And then you can just fix them up a little bit. If you think that they're just too perfectly round, I just kind of come in and just kind of dab around the edges of them just to rough it up a little bit. All right. Now these are the petals. I know this is a little confusing here, but these are the petals that are like in the middle, but not completely out yet. It'll make sense in a minute. All right, so as long as you have something kind of round like that, just keep an eye on where your center is. All right. Okay. Now we want that to dry completely. So I'm going to take my heat gun and I'm going to dry it. Okay, so I just want to show you really quick, well, without bending my flower too much, but see how it kind of mimics that outline. So right now we're not really concerned about the inside of the flower. We're concerned mostly with the outside of the flower. And it's kind of mimicking in size, in color, and in shape. So you know you're doing pretty good there if that's what you have. All right. Now that it's nice and dry, I'm going to go in with still my permanent rose, still a nice wash. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to kind of mimic what I had just done, but on a smaller level. And you don't have to follow your lines exactly. It's going to be a little bit darker because we're layering it, so it's going to be a little bit darker. Don't forget those petals that are going up. So I'm just taking my brush and I'm just kind of making petals that are going sideways. So I'm using the point and then I'm dragging down. So point, drag down, and then you can always fix it up and just add a little bit more. If you feel like that, if that outside, I'm not really concerned with the inside here. I'm looking at the outer level, the outer layer of the petals here. And then these are going down. Okay, and even if you want to go outside the line a little bit of your petal here and make an extra little petal down there, you can. I just put a little bit of pink right in between these petals. You could definitely do that. All right. And then these petals, we're going down. These petals are going sideways. Okay. And I'm going to bring just a little bit of that pink down in the middle here. Just kind of cover that up. Now I still have white space for those two petals that are in the front here. We're going to be covering them up in a minute. It'll make a little bit more sense. All right, so right now we've got our outer layer and our second layer. I'm going to go ahead and dry that really quick. Okay, so as you can see, now that it's dry, it's giving it shape. You can see the outer petals and the second layer there. Now we're going to make a third. I'm still using my size 12 and my permanent rose. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to do another layer. Still kind of mimicking the shape, but just a little bit smaller in size. So these petals are going up, they're in the back, you're kind of cupping it. These petals are going down. These are starting to come up on this side over here, almost sideways. All right. Now I'm going to start filling in just a little bit, a light pink on those front petals there. I'm going to start shaping it out a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my brush, it just has water on it, and I'm starting to lift up some of my paint. I'm going to lift up a little bit of my paint on those two front petals right there. Because I want to just kind of show the cupping of the front petals. Have them a little bit lighter because they're closer to you. And I'm going to start doing the same thing with some of the petals going down. I know we had just put paint there, but now I'm going to lift up a little bit in the middle just to give it a little bit of depth. You want your lights and your darks. So I'm just taking a clean brush, dragging it, not all the way to the end, just maybe to the halfway of the petal, and dabbing it off on my paper towel. And I'm going to do that on all of them. It's going to start shaping out which way those petals are going, giving you some lights and some darks. Look how pretty that is. Now we've got our 3 different levels right there. That's really pretty. And you can keep doing this. You can do as many layers. Let me show you my flower again. You could do as many layers as you want. Look how many layers these have. It's got the first layer, the second layer, the third layer, fourth layer, fifth, sixth, and then so on. It just keeps going. These are just such beautiful flowers. Now see how the petals are kind of mimicking each other here in shape? They're just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller as they go in. The largest petals are on the outside, and they're a little bit more translucent in the background. All right, let's go ahead and dry that up really quick. Okay, so I just wanted to show you, because it kind of gets a little confusing of which way we're going right now, but I wanted to just kind of show you my finished one that I had done earlier. So their petals are still going up. You can see that it's cupped, and they're still going up and around in the back here, and these are coming forward. I did take my brush with just water, and I don't know if you can see this on camera, but I did lift up some of my paint in certain areas just to give some highlights. All right, so that's kind of what we're doing right now. And I'm gonna go in with a darker pink, still my permanent rose, and I'm gonna just use the tip of my brush, and I'm gonna just kind of come in, still mimicking my flower, which way the petals are going, but on a smaller, skinnier scale, because the petals haven't opened quite yet. So they're a little bit thinner, I should say. A little bit more jaggedy. So we're just kind of closing in our flower. We started with the outside and we're closing it up as we go. And if you don't like the way that looks, you can always take with a clean brush and just kind of maneuver your paint around. And I'm just really using the tip of my number 10 or 12. All right, we're gonna cover up some of that lighter. We just wanted it to be lighter. We don't want it to be really white. We just want it to be a little lighter. So we did go ahead and cover up some of our front here. But this is where the middle is, and our petals are gonna start coming out like that. Pretty. We're gonna pop in our yellows in there in a minute. Now just stand back and look at it and see if you need any more little wispy petals anywhere, if you feel like you need to bring them up anywhere. This one I feel like needs to come down a little bit, and this one can come up. Beautiful. Now you don't want it to be too wiry and thin, so if you feel like it is getting to be like that, just take your brush with just water, just a little bit of water, and just start maneuvering those around and just thicken up your petals a little bit. If you feel like they're just a little bit too thin and wiry, just thicken them up a little bit. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and dry this again. All right, you can leave it nice and light like this, and if you wanna push it a little bit more, you can give it another little layer, which I think I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna come out even with a darker layer. And it's not necessarily that my paint is darker, it's just the more I keep layering, automatically your paint looks like it's darker, even though it's not. You're just layering it. Bring some of these down again, up. And then we're gonna pop in a little bit of our yellows and oranges in there. See how translucent these petals look? It's how you're layering your paint. Just so beautiful. All right, we're gonna finish up this little guy, and then I'm gonna show you another on a smaller scale, more like looking right on at the middle. All right, so now with my number 4, I'm going to take my paint, and I believe this is my yellow ochre. I'm gonna take a little bit of my yellow ochre. Just get a nice little wash of it right there in my palette. And I'm gonna put in some little middle yellow, like little dots. Now I know the peony I showed you right there is not completely open yet, so it doesn't exactly look like this. But I'm just gonna be putting in some yellow dots right in my center. If you feel like it's feeling too spotted, go ahead, take your brush and just kind of connect some of those dots together. And if you want, another little tip is just take clean water and you can start bringing some of those out if you want to give it a little bit of a highlight of yellow right there in the middle. You can bring some of those out into your pink and bleed them out. And that's all I'm doing. But I'm still kind of going in this like little sunburst motion. I'm dragging my brush up and then I'm dragging it down. All right, and then when that dries, you can give it another little layer of the yellow in there as well. All All right, so I'm just taking my yellow ochre again, and I'm just gonna start dotting it a little bit right here in the middle. And it's gonna make a little bit more sense now that we have a little bit of that yellow spread around, like that. And you don't even need to show as much here if you don't want to. If you feel like it's just too much, clean brush, just take some away. Dab it off on your paper towel. There. All right, so that is one view of the peony. Now I'm going to show you where you're looking right on at the flower. All right, so I guess I'll still use my, well, we can downsize a little bit. I'm going to switch over to my 10 now. I'm still going to use my permanent rose. And this one here, I'm going to make kind of a spiral because you're looking right at the flower. Okay, so I'm making a spiral. And then just with the same color, permanent rose, but really light wash, I'm going to do these like little U's, like a little cup. And then I'm going to just kind of jag them out a little bit. So they're just rough little petals. And I think we can fit like maybe, usually when I do these, I can fit like 5 on here. And you can make them a little bit bigger if you want your flower a little bit bigger, you can. You can make these as small or as large as you want. Just kind of fill in that cup, but still have some petals showing through, and make sure they're a little jaggedy, because I just showed you how jaggedy those little petals are on the edges. Okay, so right now I've got 2, 1, 2, and each one has like about 3 little petals. So I'm going to make my U shape again, my little cup, and I'm going to make 3 little, kind of like 3 little parts coming out. You can make 2, it doesn't matter, or you can make 1 big one. I just like to have a little bit of breathing room between the petals. That's why I do it that way. I'm going to do another little U. Fill that in. You want to fill that in before you get an outline, because you don't want to wait too long, because then you're going to get an outline, and you don't want that. So fill that petal in right away. So just do each petal individually. Don't do all your U's first and then fill them in, because then by the time you get back to the first one, it's going to be dry. So make sure you do them one at a time. All right. And then if you feel like, oh, this is looking a little flat on this side, just bring it out a little bit. That's all. Just look at the outside. We're looking at the outside shape of our flower. We're not really concentrating on the inside too much at this point. All right, so it's kind of the same concept. We're going to be drying it and just keep layering it, but this one is facing towards you. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and dry this really quick. Okay, I'm gonna take my permanent rose again, and I'm just gonna do some smaller, pretty much the same shapes we were just doing, but on a smaller scale. So my little U, make a couple little petals here and fill it in. Okay, so here's another one. All right, so see how I made that pretty much the same thing, going all the way around, but on a smaller scale. Now what you could do is you could take just clean water, take your brush, and start from the middle and just bring your brush up. You're going to start creating some highlights again on those wet petals. Just make sure your petals are still wet, and you could do this. So just take your clean brush, drag up, take off some of that pigment, wipe it off on your paper towel. There you go. Okay. So we're just bringing back a little bit of that translucent, we don't want it too dark in there in the middle. So we're just taking off some of that pigment. All right, we're gonna dry this again and do the same thing. Okay, so I'm gonna take my permanent rose again, and I'm gonna do a smaller U and fill it in. And you're gonna keep going around your flower. You could do as many layers as you want. You could do 3 or 4, whatever, depending on how many layers you want showing. And And it goes a little bit faster. Obviously, as you get closer to the center, it goes a little bit faster because you don't have as much surface to be painting. Your petals are getting smaller and smaller. All right, so there's my third. And I'm gonna fill this in with just a light, clean pink wash, just light. That's why I did it right at the end there. Take your paper, or take your clean brush and do the same thing. You can lift some of that pigment up, dab it off on your paper towel. Okay. You just don't want it to get too dark in the middle. There. So you lifted some of that up. All right, now we're gonna pop in our middle, but I'm gonna dry this really quick again. All right, so I am just gonna stick with my number 10, and I'm going to take my yellow ochre again, and I'm just gonna pop in a little bit in the middle here. Now that's a little too dark, so I'm gonna wash off my brush. I'm gonna pick up some of that pigment. And if you want, you can kind of spread it around a little bit, just to give a little bit of a hue of yellow in your pink. Now you could have done this before you even blow dried the middle part here. You could have just let it bleed together. There you go, perfect. And then you can let it dry and see if you want another little layer. So that's pretty much the two peonies that I wanted to show you. One is kind of facing up, one is kind of facing right at you. All right, and now let's do a little bud. So the buds, I'm just gonna do one right here. The buds are kind of round, actually they're perfectly round. I'm gonna do a light wash of pink. All right, pick up some of that if you don't want it so dark. Go ahead and dry that. All right, you're gonna come in with another little layer, but now you wanna kind of show some petals. Like this is the outside petal, that's the inside petal. They're just kind of overlapping each other. All right, so let's just kind of make your line a little wavy. So now you have a darker part and a lighter part. I'm going to take some of that pigment off again. All right, I'm going to go ahead and dry that. And I'm going to do another layer. And I'll have this one come out this way. Okay, I'll go ahead and dry that. And I think I'm going to give it one more down towards the bottom here. Nice and dark. All right, so it's just showing all the layers before they have opened. Now with a really little brush, let's see, I'll take my size 4 again. You can see some of the veining on the petals before they've opened. So I'm just taking a little bit of my permanent rose. Make sure your flower is dry. And I'm just gonna start bringing in just some little veining. You could even do some like at the top of the ridge here. You could do some more going towards the bottom. It's just a little bit of detail. You can skip this part if you don't like it, if you don't like all that detail. You don't have to do this part. You can lighten it up a little bit, just to soften it up so it's not so perfect. There. Okay, so, and then we're gonna pop on some green. And actually, I'm gonna do a little bit more of that veining, but maybe up here. Just a little bit more. Just with a little bit of a broken up line, I'm just kind of outlining it a little bit. And then you could bring some down if you want to. Blur that in a little bit. Just tapping it with clean water. And then if you think this is too stark, just kind of scrub that line a little bit with just water. Soften it up. Okay. And then we're going to be putting on our, well, actually, before we put on our greenery, I want to go in and do a couple more little areas of this. Yeah, he's pretty dry. I'm taking my size 10 again, my permanent rose, and I'm just going to be giving in a couple more I just felt like it needed another little layer in there. Just didn't feel complete to me. Bring them out as much as you want. Pretty. All right, and then I think I'm going to pop in a little bit more of my yellow ochre. There. Now he feels a little bit more complete. That is so pretty. All right, let's go ahead and pick up I think I'm going to be using my sap green. All right, so I will show you this palette because I've got one palette for my lights or cools and one for my warms. This is my cool palette, so I've got my sap green here. Go ahead, make a nice little wash. Okay, and let's see, I think I'm going to use my 8 for this, my size 8. So I'm just moving down. And I'm going to put a little stem coming down. Now peony have nice stems. They're a good size stem. They have to be able to hold up this big head. So it's not like, I mean, it is a delicate stem, obviously, but it's a little bit thicker than your normal flower. And we could put on some little leaves that are coming out from the bud here. Okay, so that's your little bud, and you can make those as big as you want. And then we're going to do the same thing. So look where your center is. And you're going to draw an imaginary line through your flower and then just bring it down, okay? Now their leaves are really cool. It's like 3. This one's actually got 5. So yeah, I've even seen it where there's just 1. So they're these nice long leaves, but they're all like connected at one little stem here, and then they all branch out together. So let's go ahead and do one here. So I'm going to make that little stem, and then I'm going to do 1. So start with your tip, press, drag down, lift up, tip, press, drag down, lift up. You can leave a little highlight in there if you want to. And actually these leaves are a little bit longer, so I'm just going to elongate them a little bit. Okay. And then it's got the third one coming off. So press, drag down, lift up. Okay. And they're all connected together on that one stem. Let me put my flower down. I'm getting crowded here. All right, I'm going to turn this around, and then I'm going to do this one coming down this way. All right, pick up some more green. You could do this in any green you want. I just chose my sap green. Cover up some of those highlights. You don't want these really big highlights showing. Maybe just a little highlight. And then if you want to throw in a little bit of a different color, you can. I think I'm going to put in a little bit of my hooker's green, just to give it a little bit of darkness. And I usually do the dark more towards the middle here. It just kind of pushes that middle in. And then you can come down your little stem. There. Perfect. And then you can keep going and doing more if you want to. If you feel that this looks just a little bit too much for you, too dark, just go ahead and just, with a little bit of water, just push it around a little bit until you get it to where you like it. There. Very pretty. And you can go ahead and actually, I think I'm just going to put another one over here. Let's see if there's like a little stem coming out this way. we'll do one coming out that way with a nice little leaf. And we'll do one kind of behind. Let's turn this around. So it'll be like the bud is in front of my leaf. There. And add a little bit of Hooker's green again before it dries. Let that do its thing. Pretty. All right. So I showed you a couple different views of the flower. The one looking up, the one looking right at you, and a little bud. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, and you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and do not forget to subscribe to this channel if you want more videos like this one. I hope you have a great day. Bye.